Let's talk to Mercy Muroki, though. She's got a great piece in The Sun this morning as Labour MPs bash the migrants' blitz because they can't stand the way that Keir Starmer was talking, like somebody from Reform, they say, or even possibly Enoch Powell. She says decent, tolerant people have been gaslit into silence by the hysterical left. Wanting to reduce immigration does not make you a bigot. Very well said. Mercy, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, it's true, isn't it? I mean, I just asked that question to Esther McVeigh. You know, has Starmer at least done one thing for this country, which is to make this subject something that people can actually talk about openly without in some way being shut down, as you say, by the hysterical left?
Yeah, and I think, look, in the article I say, you know, this is him flip-flopping, let's be honest. He was calling for a second referendum a while ago. You know, he was definitely part of the sort of open borders movement, really. But to be honest, if he's flip-flopped on this and this is now what his position is, I'll take it. I'll take it, Mike, quite frankly, because he has now reckoned with the fact that this is what the British public want.
Yeah.
And this idea that, you know, Keir Starmer, of all people, is somehow now fascist just because he's pointed out the fact that actually immigration levels of 700 plus last year, it went up to nearly 1 million a couple of years ago. That's unsustainable. That is not good for the economy. And if he's now taken the position that this is what Labour should be doing, I kind of commend that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, you will have seen, I'm sure, like I have over the last few days since Starmer's speech, all these sort of, you know, very, very heart-filled tweets by lefties who have said, you know, my father was an immigrant, he came to this country, he started a business, he didn't speak any English, and now, you know, I'm the result of it. I went to university, I'm second generation, la la la. And it's like, well, that's all fine, it's great, absolutely, that's what immigration's meant to be. It's meant to be an opportunity for people to come to this country from other countries and do well and become part of the community. That's not what we're seeing. That's not what the illegal migrants are doing, and it's not what an awful lot of the people coming here to so-called study are doing either.
Yeah, and you know, I am also an immigrant. I'm a first generation immigrant. I came here as a child. I didn't speak English either. My mum came here. My mum still works in a care home, earning very, very little.
Yeah.
So I am very much, you know, of that immigrant class of people who came here to make themselves, you know, give themselves a better life. And I, of course, completely understand that argument, that this is not about immigrants themselves at all.
Yeah.
And that's not what this is. This is about the scale of immigration. This is about the fact that we are already, even if you stopped immigration today, we would still have a crumbling NHS. We would still have, you know, schools completely overcrowded. We would still have all the problems that we have. And we're just adding pretty much fuel to the fire by sustaining these enormous levels of immigration. And that's the point. It's about the scale of the problem.
Yes.
And until the government can prove that they can tackle, you know, the issues with public services, that they can, you know, have growth without relying on immigration overseas, until we can prove that we can do that, I don't think we should be, you know, importing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people every single year.
No, of course not. And I mean, the fact that you even have to make that argument is nonsensical in itself because, you know, we know that finite is a word and it applies to everything. You know, the reason that the NHS has got a lot of problems, it might be that there are many people who come to this country and end up working in the NHS and in the care system and all of that. But the problem for the NHS is that they also use the NHS. And, you know, London, for example, is a much more busy centre of population now than it's ever been. You know, I'm not sure we even know what the full population is of this country. So many people are coming here, you know, sort of 10 to the dozen every single day. It's kind of ironic that 7 boats actually arrived on the very day that Keir Starmer made that speech. You know, all Border Force boats bringing people in. You know, and it has to stop. But he's made no comment about that. And all he said is he wants to reduce the numbers by, say, 100,000. As you say, it's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, and I guess this is, I mean, his policy really on small boats is clearly not working. They're still very much coming thick and fast.
Yeah.
So he definitely needs to do far more on that front. This was really about the legal migration sort of policy, which is absolutely right. He should be addressing that legal migration side as well. I think the reforms he's brought in, or he plans to bring in, they will go some way to reducing net migration. It will be somewhat of a deterrence to people who were kind of planning to come to abuse some of the loopholes, perhaps. But and I don't actually think that it's useful to kind of put numbers on it. What I want to see, essentially, we've got in this country 1.6 million unemployed people.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't need to be bringing in this level of immigration to plug the gap. We've got people here who can plug the gap that we need in terms of the labour market. I want to see a government that's absolutely focused on making sure the people in this country, the 1.6 million unemployed, are getting in work, that we're reducing that big welfare bill that we have as a result of all these people being out of work, that we're training people, that young men who, that proportion of young men who are not in employment, education or training gone up 40% since the pandemic. What are we doing to train up these young men, to give them apprenticeships? That's the kind of conversation I want to hear, rather than let's just keep importing workers from abroad. Yeah,
I think that's a very good point. Good to talk to you, Mercy. Thank you very much indeed. Mercy Muroki, today's Sun columnist on page 10, talking all about why it's not a bigoted scenario to reduce immigration, to want to reduce immigration, and want to talk about it even. But the lefties, of course, will tell you otherwise. They'll say, oh my goodness me, Keir Starmer, he's now gone right of Attila the Hun, because he wants to actually stop people coming here who are not actually welcome here and who shouldn't be coming here, because they don't have a place when they get here other than the one provided for them by the state, by the taxpayers, by you.